Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Absolute Masterclass hosted by yours truly. So, Absolute is making staying at home much better by adding some creativity to your homes through the Creative Absolute Masterclasses. Each of these sessions, um, each of these sessions will feature different creative, and with the creative, will de- sorry about that. Each of these sessions will feature a different creative and will delve deep into the creative process as well as create live art. And the Absolute Masterclasses take place every Saturday at 3 p.m. on the Absolute Essay Instagram page. So, before I introduce today's guest, I'd just love to give thanks to everyone that has been actively participating in our creative masterclasses. Your feedback and response has been very positive and inspiring, and it is what has been keeping us going week in and week out. And with that, we've been able to repurpose some of the artwork into masks, and I guess I'll be sharing more about that and how far we are with the process. So today I've got a very, very exciting guest. She is a young and blooming art director, illustrator, designer. Ladies and gentlemen, put your emojis together for the one and only Lauren, Lauren. While we just wait for Lauren to join us, um,
Hi,
hey,
guys.
hey,
Thank you for
Lauren.
having me.
Thank you so much for being part of this amazing campaign and initiative. And thank you to Absolute for once again championing creativity and inclusivity. And I think you are so brand fit, and everything you stand for as an artist is very much in line with the initiative and with even my creative vision. I think we both kind of create from a very honest place and a place of sharing,
Definitely.
giving, and yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
yeah. So I'm gonna just go into it. So what have you been keeping up to, and what have you been doing during lockdown?
Well, I've been very fortunate to be super busy with work. I spoke about it earlier today on Kaya FM, but the whole world has sort of shifted to digital creators. So I've been super busy and sort of I guess keeping busy is a blessing to not like have to think about everything else that's
Mhm.
going on in the world. So yeah, it's been quite a busy time and quite a productive time. So it's been good.
And what is the one non-essential activity that you miss doing the most?
Probably going out and having drinks with my homies. I haven't seen them in a really long time, and I miss being able to blow some steam on the weekends. So that's probably it.
And what if you were not an illustrator? What profession would you be in?
So I would probably be a photographer. I actually
Mhm.
studied photography, but you guys are too good. Like how am I supposed to
Get out
compete?
of here! Yeah. You're equally amazing.
So yeah, that's probably what I would do. But yeah, this is what I do.
And what's the one thing you'd say people don't know about you?
Probably that in my first year of university, I studied visual communication and film, and they wanted to
Mhm.
fail me for my first year because I couldn't draw.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
hectic.
so I was almost held back because my drawing teacher didn't think I would make it as a designer because I had such poor drawing skills. So yeah, a lot of practice has gone into
Wow.
creating what I have now.
Isn't it crazy how like you people never believe in you until you make it, as well as like all these institutions. It's like you constantly have to
Definitely.
make it and make it over again.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I think from the outside, this industry looks super like daunting, and I think it looks a lot harder than what it really is. If you're dedicated and you spend the time learning the skills it takes and sort of improving your voice and the kind of work that you want to do, I think
Mhm.
anybody could do it. It just takes time and practice.
Absolutely. And where and how did you start illustrating?
So when I started my career a couple of years ago, I started as a designer. And then I started working at Between 10 and 5, the publishing company. I think everybody knows them. And for a lot of the articles that they did, they needed artwork. And so I guess illustration was a really, really popular format for articles back in what, like 2015, 2016. So I kind of just tried my hand at it, and I kind of found out that I could be really good at something, and I could tell stories in interesting ways, and sort of through that my skill set grew, and I kind of stumbled into the work that I always wanted to create.
Sure. And how do you find balancing freelancing as well as your 9 to 5?
Oh, that's an interesting one. It's it I don't know, it gets easier over time. I think what helps is working full time for an agency that supports your side hustle. I think that I've worked for a lot of places, and many creatives will agree with this. When you sign your contract as a creative, it kind of stipulates that you're not allowed to do any work over and above what you do in your 9 to 5. And I think that when I learned that sort of anything that I learn over and above my 9 to 5 and working with international clients and like big businesses and small businesses, anything that I learn, I can apply to my 9 to 5 anyways. So I feel like it's beneficial to be able to branch out. And I think especially in a time like this in COVID-19 where so many people's jobs are on the line, if you have an opportunity to make a living from your skill set, I don't think anybody should hold you back from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so just sort of it's not always easy. I mean, I like go to work and then come home and then work until like 11 or 12 and then sleep and sort of do it again. But the nice thing about working above that is that you can choose the clients that you work with, and you can choose the
Absolutely.
type of
Yeah.
work that you take on. So you only take on something that you're really invested in, and I think that's the joy, because in your full-time work you're sort of taking on everything and you don't really have a choice, whereas you get to choose the work you do in your freelance life, and I think that's really where you can show the type of work that you're capable of making.
I think that's so important. Like, sorry about that. I think it's so important what you're saying about the freedom that you actually. I think a lot of creatives are not aware of the freedom that they possess, in terms of being able to choose the clients and being able to kind of
Yeah,
negotiate their contracts. And I think it is important to highlight that it is equally important for creatives to understand that you too have the power to choose the client as much as
definitely.
they have, you know. And
Mhm.
how do you go about kind of choosing your collaborators? Um, do you actively go out and pursue work, or do you wait for someone to hit you up via DM or on your website?
Yeah, it kind of works both ways. I think in the beginning I was kind of apprehensive of sort of reaching out to collaborators and brands, because I mean, as a creator, you have a lot of self-doubt,
Mm-hmm.
um, and obviously that weighs a lot on you. And only after like a couple of years do you gain the confidence to sort of like approach a brand with an idea, or like approach a fellow creative and sort of like propose a collaboration. But I think the most important thing that I've learned in specifically the last year or two is to get your work in front of as many eyes and hands as possible. I think that the world and online and Instagram is such a huge place, and there's so many creatives
Yeah.
that not everyone's going to see your work. There's so much to compete with. So if you want something, you have to purposely go out and ask for it, and go out and propose a collaboration or a campaign or something like that. But you have to make
Yeah.
sure that when you do that, you have a body of work that proves your skill set and proves what you're capable of. And I think creating that over time, and creating work that speaks to yourself and speaks to who you are and the type of work that you want to create. And once you've created that body of work, I think it's really easy to go out and propose things to other artists and other brands.
And I'd love to kind of explore your work, in terms of the subject matter that you choose to challenge in your work, such as gender-based violence, representation, mental
Yeah.
health, and equality. And I think these are very important themes that you effortlessly explore in your work. And I think it's such a beautiful way to tackle these hard these hard topics. And how do you how do you go about kind of approaching them?
So I think maybe my most popular artwork that I've created, and I think I created it in either 2017 or 2018, was a Me Too piece that, I mean, for a lack of a better word, went completely viral. And all it was is I kind of just went home, and it was like a really somber time, and the world was sort of like turned on its head with all these women coming forward. And I think it was just, I sat down, I remember sitting down in my bed and just sort of like trying to piece together like a visual representation of what was happening around me, and
Mhm.
and sort of putting that out there for other people to relate to, or for other people to understand that everybody is going through this really overwhelming thing that's happening on a global scale, and sort of how we're all coming together and standing up against something so vile. um
Yeah.
and I think from there, I remember getting like hundreds of messages from women all over the world, just sort of saying thank you for making something that they could sort of relate to, and something that made them feel heard, and
Yeah.
something that they could share with their friends or onto their Instagram story, and without having to completely sort of like open up a story that they didn't want to tell, but they still wanted to be a part of the movement. And I
Hmm.
think that's really powerful, that as creators we could have this voice for people, and it's a really amazing thing. And if we can use it to sort of make the world a better place, I think
Yeah.
that's really exciting.
I think that's such an important point you're speaking about, and I believe I'm also an advocate for kind of um, sharing my platform for others to kind of find home in the work. And I think it is so important that we create all these different spaces, and these spaces don't have to be like physical brick and mortar spaces, but it can be
Yeah,
like a piece of artwork that can spark a conversation, or rather an
definitely.
uncomfortable conversation, and bring about change, you know.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and this leads me to the next question, which is how how have you found it creating work during this time of COVID-19?
It's been quite interesting. I think when everyone started, when we sort of went into lockdown, we were just trying to carry on with like our lives as usual. But it's been incredibly overwhelming having to try and continue creating work in sort of like a normal setting, because it's not normal. And I think mental health has been like super tricky for a lot of people. And so I've taken up yoga every day, which is something I never thought I would do, but it's definitely helped with like the stress levels, and like being mindful about the
Mm-hmm.
things that I do and the things that I think about. Um, but as I said, I've been super, super busy and like inundated with interest in my work. So that's something I'm super grateful for. And I think keeping busy, whether it's working or whether it's learning a new language or like something you've
Yeah,
always wanted to do, will definitely help in terms of like trying to get past this like really difficult phase in our lives.
yeah, and I think self-care is it's very important,
Yeah,
and there's a quote that goes by that self-care is about giving the best parts of yourself and not the parts that are left. And I think
definitely.
it is so important that you are investing into your own self while in the process of creating work for others, because I think so
Definitely.
much it takes so much to kind of be optimistic, to be inspired during a time of crisis. So I think
Definitely.
for fellow creatives, it's important for us to kind of find all these other human activities to kind of
Hmm.
add to our daily life programs to make life a more livable space. And
Definitely. I, I think that also creating, I think one of the things that I've learned that's also helped me a lot in my personal work is that people like to know that you're also not like to know, but it makes them feel more comfortable when they know that you're also struggling with something. So if you're having a bad day, if sort of you're like too tired to like function properly, or you're uninspired creatively, if you create work where you put that out there about things like that, people appreciate that. Because I think as creators, and you'll know, like having your work live on Instagram, everyone thinks that you have like this unlimited amount of creativity, and that just like simply doesn't exist.
True.
So struggling sometimes and letting other people know is helpful, and helping people talk about things like that is really great.
True, and I think that level of honesty is what's needed now more than ever. It's pretty, I guess it doesn't help anyone to put on a facade of this supreme excellence and this supreme success during a global pandemic, you know,
Yeah,
where everyone is actually living in an uncertain kind of headspace. And I think it is important for us to constantly share and be as honest as we can, as creatives, as artists, and as human beings in general. I think that is so important. Um,
definitely.
yeah. And I believe you've been working on a special piece of artwork for Absolut, which
I
will be
have.
repurposed into market communities that are in need.
Yes,
Would you like to take us through some of the work that you're currently working on?
definitely. I'm just gonna pull my laptop here
Cool.
to show you. So we're gonna do things a little differently today. What
Mm-hmm.
I've done is I've created two different artworks that mean two completely different things. And I'd like you and our audience that's watching today to help us decide which one should end up going on the mask. So the first one I'm going to show you is something that's a little closer to my general style of work. Basically, sorry, so it's still a work in progress, and I hope you can see it. So
Okay. That's
basically what this is
beautiful.
it's basically a recognition of all the frontline workers in South Africa, or in the world, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's supposed to represent is every single time someone puts on that mask, that they're remembering the people that have sort of kind of stayed working in the front line to make sure that we can kind of carry on with our normal lives. So healthcare workers, car guards, petrol attendants, shop assistants, like all these people that have continued to sort of run their daily normal lives so that we can kind of carry on as normal. So the first one is for them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it looks like.
Beautiful.
And then the second one is this one is totally, I kind of pushed myself a little bit to create something that I wouldn't normally create.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the second one.
Wow.
And basically what it is a collection of all the things that we would normally do if we weren't in lockdown. So there's someone out there hiking, there's the sun, there's a little braai, there's like a bunch of really
Yeah.
cool things that when putting on the mask, and when people wear these masks, they understand and they're reminded that by doing this, you are sort of one step closer to sort of getting back to all these wonderful things
Wow.
that
Wow.
people do. So yeah, those are
Wow.
the two artworks that I have put forward, and I would love to see which ones people would like. So how are we gonna do this? For the
My
first one I showed,
yeah.
should we, I don't know,
So
oh, it's not
what we can do, we can say for the first one, if you can add a blue heart for the first one, and then should you love the second one, you can add a red heart, and then I can better judge from that.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to see it.
But my
Oh,
personal
thank
favorite one is the first one.
yeah.
Purely because I love, I guess I love human beings, and even like the subject matter that I shoot are like portraits of humans. So it for me it's such a like I'm more attracted to humans than objects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
makes sense.
yeah. So I think the second one, I love the story of the second one far more though, because I think it's a great reminder. I think
It's
from
like,
an aesthetic point of view, the first one, and I think
yeah.
everyone is kind of generally agreeing with the first one.
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
likes the first one. I think people are interesting in seeing people portrayed in a way that they're not like in masks or not normally like it's not normally something someone would make an artwork of. I think it's a nice reminder there's so many people that have been working and trying to keep things as normal as possible and sort of keep the country going in this like economic turmoil. So yeah, I think maybe we'll go with that one. I think a lot of people a lot of people are saying both are great. Thank you guys. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Shannon, great. Both
That's
hearts.
super sweet. Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah,
I
I
think,
also think the first one is probably more true to who I am as a creator. And as you say, you photograph people because people are super interesting.
yeah.
Um, and I think it would really translate nicely on a mask and maybe something that you wouldn't normally see.
And I think even just that, highlighting like kind of your signature, I think it's the first one, Aaron, you know, it's like, I think it's so distinctive and it's so you that I think that's what drew me to it. It's like almost, it has your signature without even you saying like, it's asked by Lauren. And I think
Thank you.
that's what's so special about your work. It's like, it's always about kind of shared, it's very communal, and it's about like kind of coming together to achieve shared success and a common goal. And I love that. You know, I think there's so much power and and greatness in unity, and I think
Definitely.
that's what makes it stand out so much.
Yeah, definitely. I think that all these things, all these problems, all these social issues that we look at in the world, they're never going to change unless everyone gets together and tries to change them.
Hmm.
Um, which is why I think education on them and sort of starting that dialogue and getting people to talk about things that are uncomfortable is super important. And for some reasons we're super lucky that people look to us and sort of like they look at our work and they enjoy it and that's a really powerful thing that we have as creators where we can really create stuff that changes the world for the better.
Yeah, and I think you're such a. For me, I think that's what drew me to your work. Like from like a few years ago, like when I started following your work, it was just this kind of there's so much heart and so much thought that goes into work, and I think that's what makes art. You know? It's always something that I guess that can touch you in such a simple and I don't know. There's something so soft and simple about your work, but yet so
Thank you.
powerful and significant. I think it's in that simplicity.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that go on in the world and in everyone's sort of daily lives, and I think that if I can spend 5 seconds with someone online talking to them through my work and sort of make them feel heard or make them feel like they're seen in a way that maybe they're not in mainstream media, I think
Hmm.
that's a great thing and I will definitely continue to try and make work that does that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think with that said, we'd just like to encourage everyone at home as well to kind of um, find creative ways to bring relief and comfort to your immediate community. And together with Absolute, Lauren and I will be um, repurposing and refashioning the masks into, I mean, repurposing the artwork into masks, which will then be distributed to communities in need. And I think it is important for everyone to find that little thing, you know. It might not be a mask, it might not be an artwork, but it could be just your time and your expertise and just sharing whatever the little knowledge you have to someone else who might be in need, or even a simple effort of buying some data, you know, so that they can
Yeah.
connect with the world, get information. I think that is very important.
Definitely. You have an important voice as a creator, and people listen, and people will listen.
Mm-hmm.
So go out and write, make music, paint, do whatever you can, and share it with the world, because people seeing other people create things gets them excited about creating things, and that's the beauty of collaboration and creation, and that's the heart of it. And the creative community supports each other more than it looks like, which is really great. And I think we're
True,
scarier than we look.
true, true. And I think
But
like
otherwise,
there's so many
go out and create.
misconceptions about the
Definitely.
creative space. And for me, what I've found, it's like I don't have any horror stories about being in the creative space. I mean, it does get challenging at times, but I guess together with other creatives, it always there are far more victories than
Mm,
you know than kind of horror stories about the space.
definitely.
And
Yeah.
um, just as like your final words, what do you think about the local creative?
Oh, wow. I'm like a huge advocate for the local creative scene in South Africa. I think growing up, I had no idea that you could sort of pursue a creative career. I mean, when I was growing up, everyone looked to like the Western world, and stories
Mhm.
about South Africa were told from a Western perspective. And I think in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, I suppose that's my gauge because that's my time in the community, in the industry. But I think we've come into like our own, and we've started telling our own stories, and in doing so on like an art and a music and a fashion sort of level, we're now competing on a global stage because we finally have our own voice and our own story told from our own perspectives. And I think it's such a powerful thing as a country that's been through so much like hardship, for us to finally sort of like come out on top and sort of tell people who we really are, and the magical things about our country. And yeah, I think I love it. I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Absolutely. And any last words from you?
Yes, thank you, Trevor. It's been an honor. I'm so glad we finally met.
I know, crazy.
It's so great. And thank you to Absolut for always being at the forefront of supporting the local creative scene, and sort of using it to do good and sort of like propel it to a global stage. I think it's definitely something that other brands should look at doing more, because you guys are amazing.
True. And I remember seeing your one post last year, or was it the year before, where you were speaking about how it was the first brand you actually partnered with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And I thought
was.
that was quite special that I guess we get to
It's
kind of speak about it again today, and we get to
yeah.
work even during a time of crisis. It's such a great brand.
Yeah, I think it's super amazing. Absolute does a lot in the creative community. And reach out. Creatives, reach out to them. They're an amazing team. They're amazing people, and they're always looking to do good. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone for tuning in once again.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Lauren, for
Thank
taking
you.
time and your platform to speak to me and to kind of create work for all of us. And I'll be back again next week with a different creative, but with the same message of staying at home and staying inspired. And yeah, once again, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back
Thank
again next week.
thank you
Cool.
guys. It was so fun.
Yeah, and let's keep the conversation going, Lauren.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'll be posting all of these on Monday, and then we can vote again.
Awesome, cool. And yeah, and I'll share on my side as well, and we can kind of have a shared poll together and see which
Amazing.
the overall winner.
Amazing. Very cool. Thanks, guys. It was super great being here.
Cool. Bye, everyone.
Bye.